Welcome after break. We continue the first part of BIM HydePark, which is about public procurement, but this time in the form of a panel discussion. We'll talk about the implementation of BIM standards in our part of Europe, and some questions. Are national standards needed? Which of them must have a central mandate or which not? Should we follow here in this part of Europe foreign standards? Do the buildings and infrastructure require a similar level of standardization?
After the panel discussion, there will be a session of answering the questions that will appear in the chat available to participants. So I invite you to the panel of our guests, whom I will present in alphabetical order. Tomasz Funtik, BIM Association Slovakia, Jarosław Nechyba, Czech Standard Agency, Justyna Pożarowska, Public Procurement Office Poland, and Mark Zagorcz, BIM Association Hungary.
Well, welcome. The first question will be addressed to all guests, all panelists. Is there, or maybe are you planning to introduce a BIM requirement in the public procurement? If not, is there any form of motivation for public procurers to use this methodology? First, I would like to ask Tomasz.
Thank you very much. I really don't know if I'm the best one to start, because currently, as I sum up in my presentation, we don't have any motivation in a public procurement to use it. Unless the public procurer or the estate owner or asset owner wants to save some funds in the construction, or wants to save some funds in the facility management in the operational phase. Any other motivation that this doesn't exist on the national level, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. If we talk only about public sector, mm-hmm. Okay, you ask about public procurement, and I can see that this would really help, and the government talks about it. They want to introduce, as far as I know, on the 14th December, they are preparing conference that they want to reveal this information that we are all waiting for. But unfortunately, I'm not able to share with you their thoughts, because they are do it under the cover. They don't want to release any information out, which is, you can make your own, evaluate whether this is the form of cooperation or not.
Thank you. I think much more can say Jarosław.
Yes, yes, of course. As you already know, we are running here the national strategy, which was started in 2018, from January 2018. So we are running it almost 4 years now, and we do a lot of work under this area. Of course, we publish more than 30 documents. Which can be useful for the public procurers from different areas. It's not just about the information requirements or standardization, but it's the documents about, for example, the intellectual property rights, license agreements, BIM protocols, contract standards. There are very important documents around the change management and the project management, because it's really tightly related with the information management, because when we are talking about the BIM, we see it as the information management for the whole cycle of the building. So we are not just looking to how to manage 3D model from the architect. The scope is much wider. So yes, we are quite heavily working on that, and that's our position right now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So let's see how it's in Budapest and Hungary. So let's jump to Hungary. Mark? We can't hear you. Yeah, unmute you.
Sorry. Yes, right now. Yeah.
Okay. It's okay.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you. So in Hungary, we have a centralized agency for all the public procurement investments above 2 million euros. And this agency is handling actually all the projects from the different organizations and participants, meaning hospitals, schools, sports facilities, and so on. And the different organizations have developed their own, let's say, standards for the public procurement procedures. So there is we do not have a let's say globally or countrywide accepted standardized public procurement documentation for the BIM requirements, but the main organizations have developed their own. So it has appeared in the public procurement projects, and all the big participants are collecting now the experience from it and collecting the data, what is worthy to do, what is not worthy to do. So I think even if it's not the best way, but it's not the bad way how it started in Hungary.
Thank you. So let's ask Justyna about the situation in Poland.
Yes, in Poland, basically we have the Ministry of Development and the Technology, and this is the ministry which is hosting the topic of BIM, and basically the ministry has drafted roadmap for the implementation of BIM methodology in public procurement. It was elaborated in 2020. In addition to this roadmap, also a working group is supposed to be set up, and these actions are further proceed and currently are proceeded in the ministry. And the Public Procurement Office, for its part, is trying to work with the contracting authority to provide some incentives. But basically what we do during the recent years, we were trying to train central level institutions and to come with the topic to them, and we try to make them aware that this is really important issue and really important subject. We are also organizing and co-organizing trainings, initiatives, promoting BIM to contracting authorities. And as a practical tool, we promote BIM standard PL initiative, which supports contracting authority in gaining a higher level of knowledge on the subject, but also helping them to start with the first project using BIM. We also included BIM in the topic of sustainable public procurement, and as a part of sustainable public procurement, we are trying to include it in our ongoing activities. Also for the next year, we plan a kind of publication which could bring BIM closer to public sector. That's basically what we are trying to do as a public procurement office.
Thank you. You must know that we prepared today for this discussion 5 questions to all our partners, to all our guests. And of course you can ask your own questions on chat and the Q&A, at the end we will ask them to our guests. Dariusz?
Okay. Next question, for me very important. Has been forced any change in the way of conducting the procedures for selecting a designer contractor, and have there been any change to the regulation governing the procedure for selecting a designer contractor, especially in public procurement? Maybe we change now order. Maybe Jarosław, maybe Czech first.
Okay. I'm personally not a fan of any regulations, because I field, and my knowledge background and my experience, previous experience, is that the market is quite independent, and it can generate lots of innovations when it's not too much regulated, because too much regulations just make these activities lower and lower. So we didn't find any need of put some new regulation because of BIM, because it's a standard product, it's a standard service, and there is no need to do that. What is really needed is the put it into a contract and put it in the BIM protocol, the right license agreement around the IPR rights. But again, we found some solution under our existing law, so there was no need to create any new additions or update in the law, in this type of the law. And what we are doing is giving the public procurement methodology how to generally make the public procurement for the asking for the best value, not just tendering to the lowest price, because that's the biggest issue as we see. But it's not related with the BIM. It's a general issue about the Czech public procurement, because everybody's just using the safe part of the public procurement, asking just for the lowest price, and as the one and only criteria, and it's impossible to get the quality with this criteria. So that's what we are aiming to do. But again, no other regulations we found.
Okay, thank you. Mark, what situation is in Hungary?
Yeah, well, we tried to regulate it somehow, but it's very hard to find a good method, because as BIM became a very fancy topic in construction industry, so many BIM managers and BIM experts have appeared in the market that it's really hard to differentiate who is a real professional and who wants just a good business for him or herself. So we started to ask for references, like if you are going to bid this design project, then you must need at least 10,000 square meters reference as a general designer or lead designer with BIM methodology. You should name it, you should say some details about it, and so on. The other thing what we try to introduce is what my colleague, Mr. Tamás Lovas, maybe referred already, that we started a specialized engineering program at the universities, which gives actually a diploma. So this level of knowledge, given by the universities, maybe we'll have some kind of quality regulation that later on we will be able to say that for this project you need at least 2 or 3 or 4 engineers who have this diploma and who have this knowledge. But it's not coming in the next or maybe not within 5 years. When there will be enough engineers like this, then there will be some regulation about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Justyna, what in Poland?
Yes, you asked about the change in the way of performing procedures for choosing a designer or contractor. Yes, so for us, this procedure for choosing, that's the public procurement procedure. And for sure, one change is very, very necessary. And from the point of view of public procurement, this change is the change of the type of the procedure. And as I said in my presentation, open procedure is most popular in Poland for performing works contract. As Jarosław said, that the issue for you is the lowest price, that for us the issue is also open procedure. We want to spend money fast also because of the procedure we spend also EU funds, and we are under a strong pressure of time also there. So this is also why Polish contracting authorities are using open procedure, but it seems that too often, and open procedure is not BIM friendly, as I said before. And we have much more in our public procurement law, much more procedure which give the space for excellent interaction between contracting authorities and contractors, but they are not so popular among contracting authorities. As I said, negotiation with publication, competitive dialogue, also new form of design contest are much better for performing BIM project. Also below EU threshold, we have new procedure, this basic procedure with the possibility of negotiation and with the obligation to negotiate. So there is a choice in our law, but I think our contracting authorities not enough often use another option. And from this point of view, perhaps it's also important to say that we have a strongly decentralized system. We have over 30,000 contracting authorities in Poland, and they decide for themselves what to procure, also how to organize internally the procurement process. Of course, they are bound by the provision of public procurement law. And as I said, in law, we have many options. So I don't think we need a change in law, but we need a change in awareness, and also later this behavioral change which will follow, allowing to use this more advanced procedure when applying for a BIM contract and when performing BIM investments. Thank you.
I'm sure that this is the huge topic, and we can discuss many hours about it. Okay, finally, Thomas, what situation is in Slovakia with this?
Thank you. I would like to connect to the facts and information that my colleagues provided already. I think we need to consider whether the BIM is the topic for procurement itself, and the procurement needs to be modified, or the owners should be motivated in somehow. Because as far as our public procurement office understands, the BIM is not the issue of public procurement. They said if the owner of the asset owner wants to order any service, he can describe it, he can mandate it according to directive. He has every right to mandate BIM. That's the first part. But I don't think that in Slovakia, as for the public procurement methods, we are using the best procedure, because from the perspective of using BIM, the design and build procurement will be ideal. So basically, you're building the model and you're constructing the building. So the data exchange will be perfect. And this type I consider the best for the BIM use. But in Slovakia, more likely we're using design, bid, build. And especially inside of design phase, we are bidding individual phases. So basically for building permission, somebody else is providing the service. For tendering, somebody else is providing. And for execution, documentation, the other firm will deliver. So the data exchange, or even the handover, the information is complicated. And we need to think about this from the process perspective. What I see as an issue is if we have experience with procuring BIM doesn't really necessarily mean it's only for public procurement. It applies also for private sector. It's the comparison of prices. If somebody requires a BIM project for, let's say, in the development for public for building permission, the workload and traditional approach and using CAD, it's totally different than when you're working with BIM. And it's totally different how much data you hand over, how much information you hand over. And what the procurers doesn't really make difference whether public or private. If they do comparison about the price, they are not comparing the same thing. Because inside of BIM, we all know that basically we go into in depth within the information. We need to solve so many collisions and so many things that will occur on the construction site. So basically, this is what we need to work out within the process and to work with the numbers and to explain the procurers. See, when you're comparing BIM project and CAD project, the information that you receive is not the same. It seems really simple, but when you go in depth, this is really crucial because at the end, the money decides. So basically, we still have the rule for the lowest price. And if you're not comparing the same thing, how the added value can be appreciated. And one note also for the experience, like you stressed out that in Hungary, you're trying to look for experiences. From my experience in public procurement, this law can be bended really, really simple. Inside the European Union, you have the right to work and execute your work with the co-alliance with different company. And I can see quite often that you really don't know who's going to do the job. You just, inside of public procurement, you're receiving so many documents declaring this is the team and this is the workforce that is going to solve all the issues. But those are not the same people that really are going to run the project. So that's why I agree with Jaroslav that no regulation, no strict regulation, because we need more experience with evaluation of BIM execution plans that are delivered within the within the price offer.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question.
Thank you. The third question can be directed to the representatives of countries which are more advanced in BIM, mandatory BIM. So I think here about Czech Republic and Hungary. Has the work on mandatory BIM you did led to the work on other legislative changes? For example, about the form of technical documentation or specific regulations regarding the protection of and management of intellectual property rights. Jaroslav.
Yes, of course, you know the answer. This generally is yes, and there must be lots of changes because again we need to change some kind of the procedures. We need to change some habits which are actually written down in those regulations. I feel that we are lucky in Czech Republic because we are running right now two huge projects. One is the mandatory BIM for the public sector, and the second is generally digital building permits for everybody. That's will affect, of course, the private sector as well. And those two projects are quietly in relation. Of course, the fact, and we have right now the similar milestone to start those publish those two projects, go alive, those projects. It's July 2023. We move our previous milestone. It was set up in 2018. It was primarily set up in 2022, but it was moved a little bit in a longer way because to set up it at the same point as the digital building permit. So that's the basic thing right now, which is running in Czech Republic. And those two projects needs lots of technical requirements and lots of changes about the technical documentation. Firstly, for the digital building permits, of course, the realistic view or realistic scenario is that, of course, in that milestone, 95% will be in the PDF document, which will be the second option how you can apply for the digital building permit. But we believe that in future it will change much more to the digital models in the open format in IFC. So we need just to develop all those systems that they will be able to accept the IFC models as the input for the digital building procedure, and that's very important. And it's again related with lots of technical specifications, and we are working on that. That's one of the area. The second area, which I already mentioned before, is the security. It's about the cloud computing security, because the public procurers have lots of sensitive data when we are talking about infrastructure, technical infrastructure, and so on. So it's, some of them are really sensitive. Those information, it cannot be just stored somewhere. Yeah, so that's really important. And in that area, we have right now in Czech Republic really tight regulations, and we need to have the deep discussion with the other part and the ministries how to do that to be secure on one hand, and on the other hand open it for the solutions which is available, because we identify on Czech market 11 vendors which are providing the CDE systems for the market, which can be usable under those our thoughts around the regulations, around setting them as the one of the pillar, which I was describing in my previous answer in previous session. And we need to change this, and that's and again at the national archiving, that is freshly published new standards on the European level about the digital archives. It's a new thing for all of the Europe, so we need to look on that, because again, as I mentioned in my previous presentation, we don't want to invent the wheel again and again. So we are always looking for the international standards, international cooperation to share some knowledge and share some experience. And what you mentioned about the IPR rights, I feel that we recognize with the experts on that field that our law is quite good in that field about the digitizing and developing and so on. So we don't need to change the law, but what we need to do really heavily to educate the architects, educate the public procurers how to use this regulation, which is quite right, how to use it and implement on the digital twin concept. So not just for the physical assets, but also for the digital mirror of that twin. So that's and we already published the license agreements, one for the design build and the second for design bid build options. So the public procurers can choose if they as Tomáš mentioned, design build is much more better for the digital cooperation and digital management. So we are also educating the public procurers to use much more design build way how to make their assets, and this license agreement is easier as well. Mm-hmm. So that's basically what we are doing here and where we are aiming. Of course, one more regulation there must be, and it will be around the, let's say, information requirements and technical specification around the digital models, because we need to standardize, and we are standardize the information requirements about the data templates, properties, and the classification system. Because when we want to share the data and when we want to collect some data on the governmental side, we need to be able to machine readable those data, and we need to proceed them by the machines, not by the humans. And our really long-term aim is something called like the digital built environment model. So again, if you want to create a digital model of the whole country, of course, all the data must be standardized same way. So you can be able to visualize publish them in the one solution, and that's very important for us. So that's the next regulation, which will be in the technical side. So that's what we are doing here.
Thank you. Education will be the next part of BIM HydePark after break. I decided to limit the answers for these questions only to 2 countries. So we had a voice from Czech Republic, and now what about Hungary? Mark?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, in Hungary, we have actually a digital building permit system since 2012. It's based on PDF-A format. So, and I can say that it's working pretty well. Last year, I was representing Lettner Knowledge Center in this conference, and now I'm also telling about these organizations. This is a background institute for the Prime Ministry in Hungary. So this organization got the task to develop the regulations. Partly the legal regulations, and on the other hand, the technical regulations for the BIM based building permit e-submission system. So actually, what we are doing now, that we are trying to transform all this system from the PDF to IFC models, and what we started to develop is to make a IFC data set for all those parameters which actually have a designer have to submit in different papers or different forms when he submits his or her drawings or plans to this system. And we are now trying to put together all these parameters into one data set and standardize it. And we were working on it, for example, together with Graphisoft, who issued already the 3rd national template file for the ArchiCAD users in Hungary. So the thing that on one side there will be a standardized template for the users, and on the other hand they will have also a standardized data set or property set among the IFC properties, which they can fill. And this way, all the necessary informations can be submitted together with the model in maybe only in one file. Of course, it's in a development status, so it's under development. So we have just trials and very alpha versions how it can work, but we are working on it to make it. The other part, the legal regulation, is a bit more complicated because there are some parameters which cannot be transformed into the IT language, let's say IT language. For example, the height of the building is a pretty complex equation according to the actual legal regulation. So we definitely will have to simplify it and make it much more transparent how to calculate the height of the building. without this quotation, because it simply cannot be transformed to IT parameter. Yeah, so I can refer about this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mark. So let's jump to the next question.
Okay, we know for public employers, BIM is completely new solution, and this question is, if public employers have decided to implement a project in the BIM, can count on practical help from central institution responsible for the public procurement market. For example, support for the stage of contractor selection, support for implementation of BIM, I don't know, additional funds, manuals, instructions. What is the situation in your countries? Maybe first, Mark, please.
Can I now skip this and maybe I will listen to the others, and I was just talking so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Jaroslav.
Of course, it's the most important part of our work to deliver those information and documents and experience and pilot project use cases and so on. So yes, our agency is the governmental agency. We are paid by the Czech government, so we are working with lots of ministry, and we are collecting all those things on the one particular website. I can provide that website in the chat in Zoom. So if you can transfer to the stream for our attendees, they can find lots of information and text articles, not just the documents, and of course some online tools around the classification system, CCI, which is very important for us. For example, to educate all the actors to use one common digital classification system. We are developing that classification system under the international cooperation, which is taking part also the Poland side by the Building Smart. So we feel that's very important to give the digital tools, not just the PDF documents. So it's interactive. They can click on that. So that's very important for us. Of course, then we are doing a lot of workshops, conferences. That's dozens of them during the whole year, even online, pushing by the COVID. And we are starting the training courses for the public sector at the autumn, because we have the full set of the documents, and Lucia will be speaking about that much more in detail in next education panel and session in your conference. And that's it. It's about the information to allow them educate by themselves, but they must move by themselves as well. So that's our point as well.
The education is first, yes?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, Thomas?
The question was if the central institution can support you somehow in Slovakia. I don't know how I can be diplomatic in this matter. You can maybe understood from my previous answers that on the national level, not much is going on. I mean, from the perspective of government. Obviously, we as a non-profit organization have limited resources and time frame for all our activities. So this is what we're clearly missing and can be improved in Slovakia, because all the employers, they're seeking for information, they're looking for it. Show me. The most frequent question is, show me BIM. Where is that BIM? Okay, so we for fun we created one box in our office and showing them, okay, here is BIM inside of the box. We're trying to be funny sometimes. Not that always works, but let's go back to the topic. We can certainly, they need to have the information. They need to know how to process the implementation at the company level. So we're talking about that we don't have the implementation at national level, which is where we struggled for over the years. But on the company level, then who will support you then? Then there are the software companies, software distributors, where they have their own motivation to sell you their package. So sometimes the motivation for open BIM collaboration is not there. No, they want to keep you within their products. And there are the other companies that they focus on implementation of BIM at the firm level. So basically they can tell you how to organize the staff, who to choose, how to build your team, which tools you need. Obviously, you need so much more tools than you used to. Now, this is new information for many employers. Before traditional work, you usually use one software, and within one software, you can draw anything you want, from Mona Lisa to Bridge. But right now, we have so many different softwares for so many different fields, either from calculations, for authoring tools, then the management tools, handover tools, correction tools, analysis tools, 4D, 5D tools, and we're not talking even about facility management. So I feel that employers are overwhelmed with such an enormous amount of information. They're seeking for information. So the education needs to improve, but not only on the university level, but also in the industry. So the education aligned with the skills, but this needs certainly the time to spread the information about BIM to everyone. So I will repeat once again, without the national strategy, there are very limited finances funded into the development of an implementation of BIM, which really directly influence the speed of implementation of national level and the motivation of firms of using it, especially in infrastructural projects. So from my perspective, this is the situation in Slovakia.
Okay, thank you. Justyna, what is in Poland?
Yes, this is a question about very practical help coming from the central level institutions. So I would say that public procurement with reference to design projects and construction works depends, in fact, on provisions of construction law. So we in public procurement refer to the construction law system, and the first source of practical support should come from this construction law area. And there we have ongoing process of digitalization of construction sector, including also this digital permits about which Jaroslav speaking also. Public Procurement Office on its site has created a part of own website and dedicated this to BIM. As I said before, also we have this space for sustainable public procurement, and we treat BIM as an element of sustainable public procurement. And there on the website, we just try to put the most basic information that could be of relevance to contracting authorities, but also link to other websites which could bring more information how to dig in this complex environment. In terms of very practical help, I think for the time being, the most practical for contracting authorities is a BIM standard PL, and there we try to redirect our contracting authorities to use the standards, the draft documents elaborated within the framework of BIM standard PL. Of course, this is not something ready to use, and this requires also quite good knowledge on the side of contracting authorities, which can take something from there, but still go to details with this ready structure, and also to complement it with own requirements. And that's something what is extremely important, as you said, knowledge. Yes. And what I can say from my practical experience, a lot of contracting authorities who decided in Poland to perform the project with use of BIM decided also to start this post-degree studies. Before they start with the project, or parallel even to the project, they go for 1 or 2 year courses provided by Polish universities or technological universities, when they just go to details, and the employee, the public institutions, is paying for these studies. So I think this is quite professional solutions when before starting the project, or parallel to that, the staff is provided with a high-level knowledge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. In our all opinion, the first, I think, is the education, and the second part of the HydePark will be dedicated for BIM education. This is the most important element.
That's right. That's right. And now we are at the end, the last question. Of course, we have some other on chart. However, in this last question, which were prepared by our team, I want to touch the problem of benchmarks. We know that certain metrics, benchmarks, or reference projects are needed for the success BIM implementation program. They allow us to measure the efficiency of implemented projects and analyze the good and weak points. So, do you monitor them to use as BIM benchmarks in the future? The questions will be also limited to Jaroslav and Mark. Jaroslav first.
Okay, as I mentioned before, one of our activities we call the program for the the program for the pilot projects. So we right now organizing under that program. It's I think it's 18 organizations right now. It's they are running something around 26 pilot project just in the housing sector, and in infrastructure there is another, I think something around 22 projects right now, because that number is really dynamic, because some projects are starting and terminating, not because of a BIM, but because the issues with the building permits or founding or whatever. It's a really dynamic number. And one of the key activities under that pilot project program is to collect the structural feedback from those projects, because we need to collect a lot of experience and information around our outcomes, because we have in our long-term plan for the second part of the 2022 update all our published documents, because there are lots of changes under the international standards, lots of improvements and developing in the industry, of course, and we are much smarter than we were 2 years ago. So we need to update all those things, and we need to collect the specific informations and specific experience, and the pilot projects are one of the ideal source for those type of the information. That's one of the points. The second point to answer is about the really interesting and very exciting publication which we prepare under the European BIM Task Group, and it was published, and it's called the Cost-Benefit Analysis. And I can recommend that, for example, for Thomas and for other people where they are struggling, the motivation, how to do that, how to make the public procurement using. It's a really simple tool. That's the methodology published in PDF, of course, and there is also an Excel spreadsheet when you can just input something around the 25 inputs, the parameters which everybody, every owner, it's private or public, already know. And after that, this tool will show you some kind of indicating numbers. So you can you can have just the slide data how your project could be beneficial or not, specifically on your situation in organizations, your maturity of the BIM, your hourly rates used in your country, and so on and so on. So that those type of the inputs, you put that in that Excel sheet, and you can use it. You can find this. It's free for use. You can find it on the European BIM Task Group website. There is a short education video as well, so everybody can use it. And one of our tasks is collect from the public procurers those fill-in spreadsheets. So because it's freshly published, BIM Task Group published it in the middle of 2021. We already translated completely into the Czech language, the guidance, the handbook, and the expert sheet text as well, and introduce it for the Czech market in September. And we have the goal till the June of next year to collect as much as possible fill-in spreadsheets, so we can collect lots of data, and we will see what they will show us as well. So that's the second area how we are working with the structured feedback from the market.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mark, are you ready to answer these questions, or want to skip it? Okay.
Yes. And this is the reason why I spared the previous question, because I will give a double answer now. Right. So on one side, as I mentioned, the projects in public procurement are not, they don't have a unified or standardized requirement. So we cannot really compare them, we cannot really benchmark them. What was the benefit of using BIM in them? But on the other hand, the Ministry of Innovation and Technology is already announcing, this is the fourth year that it was announcing applications for the construction industry participants. First, they were announcing it only for the contractors. Now already they are announcing it for the design and engineering offices as well. It's an application to improve the efficiency of the company. So they can apply for funds from several thousand euros up to several hundred thousands of euros to improve their efficiency by using digitization and the innovative technology. And it made actually pretty good progress among the biggest contractors in Hungary. So they started to innovate, they started to use these funds to buy legal software, to buy new solutions, to buy new equipments. And these big contractors, they are measuring for themselves. They're trying now out what is worthy to use and what is not worthy to use. Of course, it's a little bit one-sided because it's from the contractor's side, but I think this will be very precious and good information, because at the end we want to lower the constructing costs in the project's first phase. The other phase, I mean the facility management phase, is not in this measurement system yet, but we'll see. So these contractors, they need to report to the ministry, and they have to show what was the efficiency increase. So we are really looking for their results. Time to time at conferences, even at the university. So I usually invite them also to the university, to classes, to show to the students that BIM implementation is not a simple switch. So it's not like I decided from today or from tomorrow I'm going to use BIM, but to show what was their vision like 5 years ago, what was their vision 2 years ago, and what is their actual vision what they can approach and what they can reach with the use of BIM. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was the last questions we prepared in our infra team for our guests. Of course, we have some questions on chat, so I will just switch into to the source of the questions. We have two questions. The first one is from Adam Glema in Poznań University Technology. The question is directed to Justyna Pożarowska. It's about translation of code ISO 19650 from English to Polish. This year, the Architecture Chamber asked for this translation, and the question is if Public Procurement Office had a positive influence of this process, or maybe will participate also in financing of this process.
I have to say that this is something what is on the side of different institutions. Polish Standardization Office, that's the institution which decides on that. I think until this contribution in form of alignment of the translation in line with certain terminology coming from the field of public procurement would be necessary, probably we could provide our expert to consult at least the draft which would be elaborated. But I don't feel this is something what we could do as a public procurement office. Yes, this is more task on the side of the Polish Standardization institution. So, but in terms of expertise and consultancy related to the correctness of terminology, we could probably do this kind of work. Mm-hmm. I have seen also the latest publication related to there are some proposals of the translation. I think there is a kind of work which is done on the side also of Polish technology universities, and a lot of consideration related, a lot of discussion related to this terminology and also to what the norm is proposing. So I think there is a good grant for doing that, and I think we could be institutions that could consult this kind of translation from the point of view of our expertise.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but by the way, I will ask the rest of guests from other countries about translation in their countries. Was it translated in Czech Republic?
Yes, of course. There are more parts of the 19650. There are, I think, three already published and 2 are under publishing. So that's more documents, and we publish and all the others. I have the list of the EN and ISO standards for the BIM, and this list they have something around 17 items, something like that. It's just about the 19650, but there are much more standards. So we have lots of them already translated, and the rest of them we are working on because it's aligned with our activities in SAN-TC 442 as well. So yes, that's very important. It's a running activity under our agency, so my position is much easier than Justyna and the others because it's our job to do that. The second department of our agency, but it's under the same logo.
Sure. As Professor Glema typed on the chat, it is also translated in Hungary, isn't it?
Yes. We have translated the first and the second part of ISO 19650. So it's already published. The rest of it is under translation. And what we did that we also translated, or let's say domesticated, the technical report for EIR and BEP. This is a SAN-TC 442 technical report. It was published in English, I think in the middle of July. So we try to catch it, and parallelly as we were working on the English version, we try to translate it and domesticate it into Hungarian version as well. It's only a working document so far, so it's not published, but hopefully very soon it will be published as well.
Mm-hmm. How about in Slovakia? Do you know, Tomasz, what is about the translation? What is the current stage?
Yeah, I have the information. I'm the national, basically responsible person for technical committee for building information modeling. So we are translating the standards. We have, as far as mentioned, 19650 series. We have translated first, second, and fifth part so far. And the other standards are being translated, continuously. The only one standard that we didn't translate was the IFC standard, which is just basically code and doesn't add any value to people. What I would like to stress out: obviously, we need standards in national language, but we follow one rule. We're not inventing new abbreviations. So basically, we follow the abbreviation that are in English. So for example, for BIM execution plan, we didn't do new abbreviation that comes out from Slovak terms and Slovak words. We use BEP for EIR. Also, we follow that. We translated we provide also English term, and the abbreviation remains the same and in English to allow the cooperation, within the globe.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Can I add something on that, perhaps, if possible? I think it's a huge challenge to translate this, at least from the point of view of public procurement office, yes, because the norm, the standard, is covering many fields. I would say it's a management standard, it's a construction standard, it's a lot of economic also references and a little of public procurement, and to find a proper balance between all that and also Polish language, I think it's a challenge. The question was if we can, if the public procurement office can take a lead or finance this. I think we need something more than the public procurement office, because we need, I think, a kind of national agreement. What the notion is in fact about and how it relates into this international system. Also, that we, as Thomas said, we don't change the idea of it. And the best example of that is the notion of appointment. Yes, in public procurement, we take it as a public procurement contract, but in fact, appointment, that's something different. And we have, in public procurement, we have to translate it as a public procurement contract, because it's a formalized way to the commitment between both parties, but appointment is much more, and it's difficult to translate this word and precisely give the everything what is behind it in our national system.
If I may add, we usually, it's not really easy to translate the term in one word to one word. Sometimes you really need to translate in descriptive way to mean the same thing. We also struggled with the point like appointed party, appointing party. Then also the asset word is not really used in construction sector. We need to explain to people that asset is basically construction. And it can be bridge, it can be road, it can be building. And this word is not used across the construction sector. But the discussion has been there, and we put out some translations. Hopefully it will be in place, but we will see in time. The many users there will be, the more feedback we'll get on the translations for standards.
Yes, but when you go to descriptive way of translating the notions or terminology, it's never more a standard ISO, because we make the scope of ISO broader, and it's never more the same text. So I am more eager to do something like Mark said. to have a certain working version, yes, which would be consistent with a national environment. And with this this notion of working version, we are still safe because we bring it to our environment. But then is there this official version of standard which stays correct in terms of being in line with English version of official standard. So I don't know if the working version is not a better solution.
Thank you. We should already start a break. However, I have just appeared another question yet, but one question was waiting quite long, and I want to ask it because it comes from student. I don't know who will be ready to answer for that. Just think about it. I will read it. All right. Good morning. I'd like to ask a question as a BIM student. What are the most important qualities to gain, and what are the most important topics to focus softwares and standards? I know it's a huge question, and just in 2 sentences, who is going to answer?
This is a question about software. Do I understand correctly? Yes.
Well, let's focus on important qualities to gain. He is a student. Mark?
Yeah, maybe I can answer it from my experience. So as I mentioned, we have a specialized engineering program, but we also have a specialization in master's program. So for architects, we provide a specialization, and it's very we made it just an experience that we didn't give unified requirements for the students. So we didn't say that everybody should build a factory or build a detached house or any model during their studies. But we asked at the beginning, it's a three semesters long program. So we asked at the beginning that what is their interest in? What they are interested in. Are they interested in design? Are they interested in cost estimation? Are they interested in facility management? Are they interested in, I don't know, clash detection? So like finding problems in other engineers' work or something. And it was interesting that all the students picked different fields according to their interest. And this way, with my colleagues, we split the group into small groups, and everybody could deal according to their interest. So for example, if there was a student who was interested in facility management, then we provided him an existing BIM model, and his task was to develop it into a facility management model. His task was to develop the information in the model, to add all the information which would be necessary for the facility management. If somebody was interested more in let's say BIM audits or BIM quality checking, then we provided him from our projects different models from different disciplines. And she had to find the collisions, and she was doing clash detection, and she was documenting it. So I think it's not a recipe. It's the student who asked the question, he or she should decide what is the most interesting part of BIM for him or for her, and go for it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I know that it wasn't possible to answer in 2 sentences for the questions. Thank you very much, all the guests, all the experts, for the interesting discussion panels. I invite you for a short break now, and we start exactly at 12:15 with the second part of BIM HydePark session about BIM education. Thank you very much. Stay with us.